Good afternoon. My name is Ed Sachs, president of my collaborative team, and welcome to CollaborEAT Live. My collaborative team's CollaborEAT Live provides digestible content to both professionals and the public on a variety of topics relating to the collaborative process. Episodes consist of a variety of topics driven by our followers and our members, ranging from ethical considerations, best practices, problem solving, marketing, specialized topics relating to the collaborative practice, practice tools, and more. CollaborEAT Live provides thought provoking conversation and educational information about the collaborative process. And today, it's my pleasure to be talking to David Lewis. David is the owner and president of Lewis Mediation Services in Chicago, Illinois. In 2011, David participated in the initial basic collaborative training and joined the Collaborative Divorce Association of the Capital District in New York, where he later became a member of the board and treasurer. He is a divorce mediator and certified divorce financial analyst and has participated in collaborative divorce teams as a financial neutral and as a neutral facilitator. In 2016, David relocated to Chicago and joined as a fellow of Collaborative Divorce Illinois. He finds collaborative practice to be an energizing, team building approach to helping divorcing couples to navigate the uncertainty of a significant life transition, combining his unique skills of individual professionals. David is the chair of the Collaborative Divorce Illinois Modest Means Program Committee, which coordinates the provision of collaborative divorce services to families with limited incomes. And that's what we're here to talk about today. Welcome, David.
Well, thank you so much, Ed, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here and to have the opportunity to participate. Um, so as you indicated, I'm currently based in Illinois and have been since 2016. I've maintained my practice back in upstate New York. Um, when we relocated to Illinois in 2016, I kept my practice using this novel concept known as Zoom, which back then seemed to be very new and has become sort of the standard by which we do a lot of video work today. So
It
it's
is. It's a
allowed,
wonderful new world, isn't
yeah,
it?
it's allowed me to participate in both states and to maintain a presence where I started to build a practice back in 2010.
Yeah. David, tell me about the Modest Means program that you're running.
Sure. So our goal in creating this program was to offer the benefits of the collaborative divorce process to couples who may not otherwise be able to afford the cost of what is known as the traditional collaborative divorce process. As you know, in the traditional collaborative divorce process, the typical team will consist of an attorney for each spouse, usually a divorce coach, and then also a financial neutral. So with four financial professionals, those fees can be significant. And in the case of a couple who has limited resources and limited incomes, the cost of that process may be prohibitive. And yet we think it's important to make those services available regardless of income. And that's really the reason that the program was born, to give access to what we think is a very, very important option for couples who want to end their marriage using the principles of the collaborative divorce process.
So, David, this past week we had a guest talk about a pro bono project. I know this isn't pro bono. We've had in the past Brian Galbraith and myself speak about fixed fee, and I don't believe this is fixed fee. Tell me the difference about how modest means works versus pro bono or fixed fee.
Sure. So I think that you might view this as a little bit of a hybrid. It is not a pro bono program insofar as there is an expectation that fees will be paid by the client to the professionals. The fees are significantly reduced. We have a two-tiered fee structure, which is an hourly rate depending on income. The lowest fee is for the lowest income individuals. And then there is a higher fee, which we call a reduced fee, that would apply for clients who have a slightly higher income but subject to a cap. And it's not a fixed fee in that that hourly rate would continue to be billed to the clients by the professionals on an hourly basis so that the length of the process would determine the overall fee that is paid, which contrasts with what I think is what typically a fixed fee program would be and would involve, which is setting a fee up front, a sort of not to exceed amount, or a fixed amount that people would understand. So there could be a range at the end, but the hourly rate is fixed. It's just that the overall cost would vary with the amount of time that the professionals commit into the process.
So effectively, each professional has agreed to lower their fee to that certain level, and that is dependent upon the party's income.
That is correct.
And how do people who are interested in the program, how do they qualify? What do they do?
So there's really a two-step process in terms of the initial application. The first step, and I think that this is important, is that each of the spouses will need to fill out an initial application, and it's relatively simple insofar as it's just indicating the willingness of each spouse to participate in the collaborative process, to acknowledge their understanding of what it is that they're signing up for. And I would note that what's important about this and how this might contrast with how typical collaborative divorce cases might initiate is this idea that both spouses really have to indicate their willingness to participate. My observation in my experience is that with many collaborative cases, it's typically one spouse or the other has an initial interest in the collaborative process. And there's often a question as to whether the other spouse wants to participate. And it might take some work on the part of the attorney who has been engaged by the first spouse to get buy-in from the second spouse. In our process, because the attorneys are not assigned right away, there is this need for both spouses to want to participate up front. The second step in the initial screening is for a very simple financial application to be submitted, just to give us an idea and a sense of what the incomes of the participants are and what their assets and debts are, insofar as our guidelines in terms of eligibility and whether they qualify for either the minimum fee or the reduced fee is based on income and assets. And assuming that they will qualify, that's basically how people get into the program initially, subject to additional screening, which I'd be happy to talk about in a subsequent question.
So, if I'm understanding this correctly, a client comes to an attorney, the attorney identifies it as a possible modest means case because of the financial situation. Um, and that attorney then moves it forward. Who decides what the makeup of the professional team is?
Well, so just a minor correction in terms of the approach. Um, that is a possibility that you have suggested, but I think that what is more likely is that through our efforts to publicize the program, um, a spouse or both spouses will be aware of the possibility of using this program. And before any attorneys are engaged or before either attorney has even been consulted, they will apply into the program. And our experience has been that we have some relationships with service agencies, not for profits, who are engaging clients who are looking into their options for how to go forward with the divorce process, who are then made aware of the collaborative process. And those referral sources are typically aware of what the incomes of the clients are, and they may be the ones to say, you should look into this program, it might fit your needs.
That makes a lot of sense. So understanding that again, once somebody has qualified into the program, number one, how are the professionals chosen? Who chooses? I assume y'all have a list of people who are in the program, professionals. Who chooses the professionals for each case? And who are the good professional? Who should, from the professional's point of view, number one, is there an advantage to being involved in this program? What professionals, do you look for to get involved in this program?
Sure. So I think the approach that we are taking in this program is, as you indicated, we have a roster of professionals who have indicated their willingness to participate in the program. And then once we have conducted a screening of the clients, we then canvass the professionals and provide information about the couple in somewhat of a confidential way. We're not divulging any information other than generic about the couple, indicating or soliciting interest in participation in the case. The next step in the process is based on the responses to this initial canvas. Each client will be provided with a list of attorneys who have indicated their willingness to participate in the case. Um, uh, that might be done with a little bit of how should I say, it may be somewhat arbitrary, and certainly we want to do it in a way so as not to give both clients the same attorney to contact. We want to sort of have a different list for each of the clients, and then it is up to them to consult with the list of attorneys and then determine if that's a good fit between the client and the attorney, and that would be how the attorneys would come on to the case. I think that the other part to your question related to, what's a good fit in terms of the overall program. Um, Ideally, I think that we are seeking to expose newer professionals to the chance to participate in collaborative cases. We found that when people come into our practice group, and I don't think this is unique to ours, it may take some time for them to get experience in working in the collaborative process. So this is a good opportunity for a newer professional to be involved. Ideally, it might be even a better opportunity to have a team that begins with the two attorneys, being one of whom may have more limited experience in the collaborative process and the other of whom has more experience, so that while it may not really be what I would call a mentorship, um, there's a little bit of a balance which allows for somebody who has more comfort based on their experience to sort of help the person who is a little bit newer, so that the collaboration may go a little bit more smoothly.
So I assume in giving out the list of attorneys and in setting up a team, your program makes sure that there's a good mix of professionals. In other words, you don't get stuck with a team that's all brand new professionals. You make sure there's an experienced one on the team, at least. Is that
Yes, and I
correct?
think that that's part of when I used the term arbitrary before, I think that that's part of what constitutes the arbitrary nature.
All right. And who
It's
who
not
chooses
totally
the neutrals?
yeah, yeah.
And
I'm
who
sorry.
chooses the neutrals? Who chooses the
Um,
neutrals?
yeah, so again, I think that ultimately, I think that there are two things to add as far as answering that question. I think I'll start with the financial piece of it. I think that it's sort of similar insofar as part of the solicitation process is not only to solicit interest amongst the attorneys, but also to solicit interest among the financial professionals. The attorneys who are ultimately selected on the case will know who the financial neutrals are who are available for the case. And as is often the situation with regard to filling out a professional team, the attorneys will have a lot of input in terms of the ultimate selection of the financial neutral who is assigned to the case. In terms of the divorce coach, that process might look slightly different, and the reason for that is part of the screening. And remember, as we were talking earlier, the attorneys initially are not selected early on. And because that differs from the traditional collaborative divorce process, this raises a question up front, and that is this couple, is this case suitable for the collaborative divorce process? And so we add a step in the screening after we know that the couple would otherwise financially qualify. And we will use a coach that has indicated their willingness to be part of the program to interview the prospective clients, spouses, to make their own determination as to whether this case looks suitable for the collaborative divorce process. We think that a coach who's acting in a neutral capacity, especially if it's a one coach model, and it doesn't have to be that, it could be a two coach model, but we think that coaches have that unique ability to do that kind of a screening and determine suitability. And so taking that forward in terms of setting up the team, our objective is that coach who's already screened for suitability is typically going to be our first choice as the coach who's going to be the coach for that case because they've already had experience with the couple during the screening process. And I think it sets up the case to start on the right foot.
Great. David, I want to thank you very much. This has been very interesting. For those people who'd like to get more information, we have been scrolling both David's email as well as the program address to get information about this program. We invite everybody to do that. And we invite you to join us again next week for our next CollaborEAT Live. If you're interested in being involved in CollaborEAT and being interviewed, just drop us a note at info@mycollaborativeteam.com. David, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.